I'm super excited to be here today with my incredible friend, Melinda Rhodes da Silva, to talk with you about Carmen Common Sense. And so, Melinda, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Melinda Rhodes da Silva. I'm the Associate Director for Strategic Partnerships with the Drake Institute for Teaching and Learning, and it's wonderful to be here with you. I'll be monitoring some of the chat and answering some questions, and then just providing some support to Nicole, with whom I've had the privilege of conducting several Carmen Common Sense instructional redesign cohorts.
Awesome. All right, well, let us get started here. Melinda, everything look okay? Melinda, we look okay?
Hold on, I had to find my mute button. Yes, okay. It looks great.
Okay, great. All right. All right. Well, our goal here today is to talk about Carmen Common Sense and using it to enhance academic engagement and achievement. But let's try to have more fun than our title maybe suggests. So, I think we might all agree that this is how we think that students look when they are engaging with our material. These people look super engaged, super happy, having a great time. I have moments where I really hope that our students look this way when they're engaging with our material, because that means that we've really accomplished something. But I think that you guys may agree with me that the way that students really look when they engage with our material is more like this. And the challenge is that when we present material in the classroom, it's all fun and engagement, and people are, they appear to know what we're doing, and they appear to know what we're talking about, and they appear to ask questions when they need to. But the majority of actual practice of the work that we do takes place when students are alone, and it takes place where we are not. And it takes place in hours when we do not necessarily have the ability to be connected with our students or engaging with them in a meaningful way. And we have to think about what we do when students get overwhelmed and when they are, in their dorm rooms or in their apartments, and they're trying to get work done, and we don't have the ability to connect with them. Because if we can only connect with them in the classroom or in the office hours that I think most of you will agree far too few people come to, the challenge becomes that this is when students fail. And we can't afford for our students to fail simply because we are not accessible to them or because the material that they are seeking is not accessible to them. So what we wanted to look at is how students can connect with materials beyond class hours. And really the way that they can do that is if we let a learning management system shine. So let's kind of just think about what the advantages are of a learning management system. These are the 8 advantages that have been identified, through the programming, and you can see them here. But, most significantly is you can leverage technology to connect students to classwork and to academic materials outside of the classroom. Theoretically, you could increase social learning. So, that's what we have discussion posts for, and other, spaces that we can get people together. We provide a level of flexibility. I mean, these are all kind of the ideas as to why a learning management system is beneficial. And for those people who don't know it, this is our learning management system. Of course, Carmen is branded Carmen for us. It's known as Canvas out in the real world. We call it Carmen Canvas. This is what someone's introductory screen might look like, for the classes that they would be taking. Theoretically, all of their classes would appear there. And now I want to just show you what students can kind of expect with getting started with Canvas. I mean, this is a pretty extensive array of things that they'll be able to do in terms of, checking their grades, taking quizzes, submitting assignments, participating in discussions, modifying their profile, their notifications, using the calendar, accessing their course. They can view all kinds of announcements. I mean, this is like, I want to live in this world. I feel like I'm in like Willy Wonka. And then there's like these awesome features for students. So there's a mobile app, and there's a to-do list, and we got the calendar that'll populate for them. They can go right to get their assignments, and they can get up-to-date information from faculty, and you can connect things to the cloud. You can submit your assignments using your preferred productivity suite. We have a mobile app that, oh my God, this is so awesome. Look at how we can communicate with our students, and we can do all kinds of stuff with grading. And this is just like the one-stop shop, which is why we picked it. This is why we evolved from Desire to Learn, which was the old Canvas, to the old Carmen, to this new one, because it had all these great features. There's just one problem, and that is that for a lot of us, our course may look like this. And so there's just a bunch of assignments thrown in. There's a bunch of stuff on the left-hand side that students may or may not know what they're supposed to do with. And they're just not quite sure what they're supposed to do or when they're supposed to do it. This is an actual course syllabus page. These are all of the assignments that have been put into Carmen for a course that one of my students took, and she took the screenshot for me here. And so basically, if she looked at what was due for her during the course of this entire semester, there would be 3 things. And I find it hard to believe that that's really all that was due in this course. And even better, sometimes we get courses that look like this, which is there's nothing here and there's nothing populated, or there's just a bunch of files thrown in. And there's all of the ways that Carmen sang and danced or had the potential to, we don't get access to that because we don't use it. We don't know how to use it. We don't realize the need for students to get access to their materials at all times and in the way that would be helping them. And so, what grade would we expect to receive in helping students stay connected through our learning management system? I'd probably give us a C+. I think we're trying. I think it's a great effort. I think, we know that data-wise, there's a lot of Carmen courses created. What we're not seeing, though, is the maximization of the Carmen experience and the ability for students to get out of Carmen what they need for them to be the most productive. And in truth, our students noticed, and they were pretty vocal about it, especially these 3 incredible gentlemen who were all members of USG, and they were part of the USG administration that did a survey of more than 200 students, and they asked them what were the biggest hindrances to their learning. And there were a multitude of things, as I'm sure you can guess, but one of the things was that Carmen would be more useful to them if professors did some really simple things. 1, that they posted the class syllabus online. 2, that they incorporated due dates for all assignments, and 3, that they released the grades in a timely manner. These were some of the key comments that were made. And so from that, we started, I had the fortune of working with them to start thinking about what were some of the best practices that we could provide for people who wanted to use Carmen in a more meaningful way. And so we also partnered with the Office of Distance Education and E-Learning and others who I will mention shortly. And we asked them to share their experiences about learning management system. And they overwhelmingly said, as you can see here, that consistency is key. All of their classes have a corresponding Carmen course, and that all necessary information to succeed in each class, syllabus, assignments, grades, and so on, is easily located. And you can see the data here that more than 90% of classes with more than 16 students have a Carmen course. For large enrollments, it's 100%, but that doesn't mean that we're using it effectively. And that's what we wanted to try to develop, was a framework where we could start to use it more effectively. So we did some addition. We added the Council on Distance Education, Libraries, and Information Technology, of which I have had the great fortune to be chair for the last 3 years. And we brought them together with USG and the people that I showed you earlier, including then President Kate Greer, who was very instrumental in this project, and my very good friend Melinda with the Michael V. Drake Institute for Teaching and Learning. And what we developed was Carmen Common Sense. And the Carmen Common Sense is a 10-step process by which you can look at your Carmen course through students' eyes. So these are the things that they found to be the most significant in terms of what they wanted to get out of Carmen. They obviously wanted their syllabus uploaded. Now, we often think about the why of things. And so, a lot of faculty that we've talked to have said, well, I hand my syllabus out in class or I send it by an email. Why do I need to upload it to Carmen? And I wish that you guys were all here so I could have you, kind of throw that out to us. But really the reason is because students don't necessarily keep things that we send them. They don't necessarily look at their email. They want to know where things are consistently. And so to be able to put it in the syllabus tab would enable them to know where it is at all times. They want assignments uploaded to the assignments tab with clear instructions and due dates. And we're going to see in a little bit in a second here about why due dates are so important to Carmen. They're actually what really makes Carmen sing and dance in all meaningful ways. They want their grades entered into the grades tab. We still have faculty, and I totally respect this, who keep their grades in a separate document or don't want to release them to students. But, in students' view and in practicality, grades belong to students. And when we don't grade things and we don't reveal their grades, not only do we provide an exorbitant amount of anxiety and agitation for them, but we also give them a pretty big surprise at the end of whatever period we finally put grades in. And students, for the most part, do not like surprises any more than we do. And so, getting a feel for understanding, students are taking 5 classes. They're not keeping track of every assignment. They don't have their own spreadsheet to see what their grades are and what their grade, how their grades are moving through time. And that Carmen will do it for us if we allow it to. They want a consistent mode of communication. They want it mentioned in class. They want to know that every time they're going to get a correspondence from you, it's going to come through an announcement in Carmen, through an email. I use Slack, or you guys are using Teams, that they know that's where they look for things. And if we don't give them consistency, their ability to navigate all of the different modes, if you think about, it would be like being at your job and every person that you worked with did things a different way, and you had to figure it out for every meeting that you go to, or and every circumstance you were in. That's what students are facing in the classes that they're in right now, is that there's 5 different instructors who do things 5 different ways. And if we can't provide them with any level of consistency, they spend so much brain power and energy trying to navigate through this ever-changing landscape and that's time and space they could be spending learning the material that we want them to become proficient in. We want it organized into modules according to content matter, according to some logical array of, whether it's week by week, whether it's subject matter, but that they understand the logic behind it. They want things on the left taken out if they're not useful to them, that navigation tab. They want the homepage to be a one-stop shop for what they need, kind of a landing page to reach you, to understand the class, to get the links to their to Zoom in this case, or office hours, or whatever you're going to offer. That you have naming conventions that are consistent, that you use open education resources when feasible. And we know that that is not a Carmen initiative per se, but it does allow for integration through Carmen that would allow them to not necessarily have to have resources in book form or go to another site, that they would have facilities through this particular platform. And that you ultimately leverage your resources that the university offers. We have a multitude of things that will connect to Carmen if we can just best consider how to integrate them. So what Melinda and I did, and we're super excited about, is we created a course in called Carmen Common Sense, and we offer it's an instructional redesign experience where you can get certified through the Drake Institute on your proficiency in Carmen Common Sense. And what we asked people to do in this course was to take a look at how they were teaching their courses, how they were utilizing the learning management system, and try to stop. Our main focus is we don't want people to think like themselves. We don't want them to think like faculty. The challenge with being a faculty member is you already know what you need to know. Your level of expertise is the highest of anyone in the room. Your students don't share that. And so the more that we can think about this from a student perspective and view this in a way that students would view our courses, view the class material, view the circumstances as a whole, the more we're going to be able to help students navigate through this course. And so what we built out was an example of what a course would look like if you were to utilize all of the Carmen Common Sense navigation suggestions and the recommendations from our students and from faculty and staff. And so, if you look on the left-hand side, everywhere there's a little I, that means those things do not appear. You can see on the homepage, I have the course content, which I'll show you what that looks like. You can get to the syllabus. You can get to the Zoom link because we taught this online. You have information on how to reach me. You have another Zoom link. It tells you the date and time of the course. So all of the material that you need, you'll be able to navigate straight from this homepage. We also have what the module format would look like. So we've created a module for each class period. This one starts with what is Carmen Common Sense. We started with an overview page, and the overview page gives them a guideline as to what we'll be doing during the session, where they get their information and ideas. All the readings and the videos we wanted them to consume were all embedded into Carmen so that they didn't have to go anywhere else to get the material. Their assignment is in here, and I'll show you what an assignment looks like. And that is fully fledged out so that they have all the information that they need. And then we asked them for a discussion post, and that was there. This is all in the order in which they would need to consume it. So they literally could click next, 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 and just go through things. This is what the assignments look like when they look on the assignments tab. So things are categorized here into what discussions we're going to do, what the assignments will be. So if they don't access them through the modules and they just want to see what the assignments are as a whole, they'll be able to view them that way. This is the syllabus tab. So you can see all of the assignments are put in a particular day. So they know exactly when they're due. They know the time that they're due, and they can budget their time accordingly to see how much time do I need to spend on any given assignment or scenario. And it'll help. This is what helps students kind of keep their schedules coordinated. Now this is the calendar, and you can see this is the week of Carmen Common Sense, and it's you can see it populated, and it's kind of important. But even more significantly, this is a 3-course load, just 3 courses, and these are all the assignments that are due in a 3-course load. And so the ability to look at your materials like this and be able to see, oh my God, I know that on Wednesdays I'm going to have a lot of things that I need to get done. I need to budget my time differently. On Friday, I don't necessarily have anything on, whatever this date was the 9th. So how can I budget my time? And this is what students are looking for. I wanted to show you guys the app. So, this is how students can navigate things on the app, which is accessible to now all of our students, since we're going to be moving into the last year of Digital Flagship, where all of our undergraduates will have iPads. And so all of the due dates, all of the assignments, all the way that you flush things out and show a level of a pretty significant and rigid structure will allow students to know how they're going to navigate through work with every week that they're going to be tackling assignments. And so we developed an assessment and evaluation of CCS faculty development, and I wanted Melinda to talk about that a little bit.
Thanks, Nicole. In actuality, we have 2 ways that we're measuring the effectiveness of our Carmen Common Sense cohort. And the first, obviously, is with post-course feedback. And we've really been fortunate to get some great feedback from those who have been through our cohort. The first time we offered a cohort, I do believe we had 75 faculty from Ohio State who were involved. The second time we were in our 30s, and we're going to continue to offer Common Sense as an instructional redesign cohort, but we also invite anyone into that course, and we can actually add people to sections. So I'm going to say that right away because Brian was asking about enrollment in that. Now, our results have been quite good in terms of content of the engagement, being well organized, the application of strategies to instruction, and then facilitation of the engagement. We were running with means of about 4.27 to 4.75. But what's most effective, I think, has to do with people who have been through the Carmen Common Sense cohort, then redesigned courses, really focusing on student-centered presentation of materials in Carmen, assessed the results of that implementation, and then submitted those teaching portfolios to the Drake Institute. And we have 3 phenomenal portfolios from chemistry, from teaching and learning, and then one, I do believe, from history that focus on Carmen Common Sense implementation in their courses. And what's really interesting is the fact that students have responded so well and have actually achieved their learning outcomes to a greater degree, as evidenced by their performance on assessment measures, especially in lab courses. And I was really kind of surprised to see how effective Carmen Common Sense was in organizing and presenting lab content. So, that tells you a little bit about how broad the effects of implementing Carmen Common Sense can be. So we usually kind of think about it in an online course only. We don't necessarily think about it applying to field or lab courses. And we don't think enough of Carmen as being the location of everything that we do and our support. And I think I'll just echo what you said, Nicole, the idea that it is your teaching assistant. It makes you more efficient. It certainly offloads quite a bit of student cognitive overload, right? They don't have to go searching for things. They know exactly what's going to be required. They know where to find things. And it allows for some timely feedback as well.
Absolutely. And we're going to, as soon as we come out of this, we're going to show you the course so you can get a feel for how it moves. But that idea of the teaching assistant is such a key component to this, because you can't be accessible to your students the hours that they want you to be, because there's people who are working at 6 a.m. There's people who are working at noon. There's people who are working at 3, 9, midnight. My son does all of his work, it appears, between, which he's completely educated me about college students, between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. He does all of his work. And it's like, no faculty member wants to get a question at that time that they're going to answer. So, our ability to use Carmen to anticipate what will be the questions, how will they navigate the assignment, what were the issues that are going to come up, how can we embed? And I saw there's a question about, how many pages to put in, and I'll show you what it looks like when you have things kind of collected together so that it doesn't look quite so overwhelming. We did want to make sure that everybody knew, get onto here, that you could join us for our next instructional redesign cohort, which is actually happening in less than 2 weeks. So we'd love to have you join us. And what we do is walk you through all of the steps about how you can utilize Carmen Common Sense theories and the guiding principles behind them and the research that's gone into them, and how you can execute them in a way that might be meaningful for the work that you want to do with your students. So if you are interested in that, I know Melinda will have more information on that, and we'd love to have you join us. We meet for, what is it? Is it 2 hours, Melinda, or an hour? Do you remember?
We say an hour, and it usually ends up being 2 hours.
Yeah, because we hang out afterwards and we talk about specific issues. So we'd really love to have you guys join us. So this is the presentation part. I didn't want to spend a ton of time doing that, because I wanted you guys to have the ability to see what we're doing. And so I just stopped the share for a second, and know that there's probably questions. And so, please feel free to jump in if you guys want to ask us some questions while I'm pulling up the Carmen page, or if you have questions specifically about the instructional redesign that, again, we'd love for you to be part of. Melinda, do you have any details you want to offer on that?
Well, one question is, are there any recommendations for the appropriate number of pages in a module? And Tara had responded about, modular presentation and the week's worth. And I think certainly that tends to be the default, because it makes sense in terms of how students are progressing through a course, or how they're thinking about preparing and the flow of their own work. We've seen different organizational patterns that are highly effective, but I don't think that there's a particular number. What we can say is that when things get busy, students check out. And again, that has to do with that cognitive overload. So you want clean, you want consistent, put forth what's absolutely necessary, use bullet points, guide them. I think one of our chemistry faculty member talked about signposts, so make sure that they have that consistently. And I think also look for strategic redundancies and information in the course, but not just redundant. Don't make things redundant just to make them redundant. It's better to have a streamlined course.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to show you, this is an example. Melinda and I have, we actually use an example of the first course I created in 2016, which is abysmal, and then this one. So I'll show you the better one.
It's not that bad, but when we first introduce it, we don't tell the faculty members that it's Nicole's, and we ask them to critique it. So they go, oh, it's okay.
Oh, not good. Yeah. So I wanted to show you, this is a course that I taught recently. This is our media law and ethics course. And this is the homepage of it. So you can see the content will take you to the modules, the syllabus. They have their class Zoom link, and then the office hours Zoom link. Here's information for me and my teaching assistant. There's a module. So you can see there is some repetition. So in terms of, you can get to the modules here, you can get to them here, but this is what I've gotten feedback from students and what they wanted. The same thing here. I have the Zoom link above, but I also have it down here. And in the event that they can't get in, I make sure to include the phone numbers. I have the hours. I have ways that they can connect. So this homepage is pretty much their landing point, so that they can get to, and I can actually show it to you in student view, so that they can get to the material that they need in the order that they need it. This is the number of things that I have over on the left-hand side. So you can see when we are not in student view, let's leave student view. These are all the options that are available, but I don't want students to be utilizing them. I want them to just utilize the things that I need them to use. And so these are some of the things that we had. If we go here to the syllabus, Notice up here, we have the syllabus as a downloadable file, both as a Word file and as a PDF. That's an accessibility aspect. PDFs are not well read by screen readers, so including a Word file for people who may need those. I make a little welcome video for everybody. I tell them how this is information from Odie that I put in here. Here's bios and contact information for my TA and for me. This is the course summary, so you can see every day, they can see exactly what's due, when it's due. And this is all because there's due dates on everything. Every page that I create has a due date on it. So it'll populate in the syllabus and the calendar, every assignment that I have. So these things here, this is the actual meeting. So they know that they need to come to this class. This is the week 1 overview, and I want to show you that in the module. But this is just a page that tells them what to do, but it puts them on their to-do list that they have to look at this page before our class begins at 1:50. So this gives them an idea. They know that all assignments are going to be due by consistent time. If it's due at 3:30, this is something we did in class. If it's an assignment, it's 11:59. So they're able to get a level of kind of consistency, and they know when things are going to be coming up for them. This is the modules. So I put different aspects here. There's resources for them. There's a start here. I list their major assignments out just so they can see what they are. And then each module by week is broken up with the same pieces. So I always have them start here, which is a week 1 overview, or the weekly overview, where I tell them what the learning outcomes will be, what the course roadmap is. This is the stuff they need to review, which was the syllabus. They have to do their course readings by this date, and their assessment is due here. They can access everything. So rather than me having a bunch of different pieces working for them all the time, they can just go here and get the access to what they need. And at the end of each session, I put the Zoom link. So I recorded everything, and then I just add the Zoom link. They can go to next, and because we have this in this module structure, they can literally just move forward. And so the next thing I want them to do, which I've given them a due date so it's on their calendar, is do their readings. And they're embedded in here as well because I use open access resources. These are the class videos that I have them watch because we're a flipped class. This is the assignment that they had to do a quiz. And so they had to move into that. And then they had this at-home assignment, how well do you know the First Amendment? So you can see in an assignment, everything it's titled, it has an overview as to what the goals are. These are the objectives. I want them to read the instructions. These are the directions. I have to fix that, obviously. These are some questions that I had them do, and I'll show you a more complex assignment so you can see kind of how much information students want. But the same thing here, this is a discussion post now, and I've given them the instructions, what my expectations are for the response, what the grading and the deadlines will be. So as much information as they may, as you would have as a student, that's the amount that you have to provide our students. And that's part of the challenge is we come at it from our head and say like, well, I know all this stuff, and we do know all this stuff, but our students don't know anything. Or, and I joke, if you know how to do all this stuff, be in another class. And so we have to think like that, like they don't know anything and they don't necessarily know how to use technology and they don't know where to find things. It's not as logical to them as it is for us because we are subject matter experts. And so really be able to think like, how would I do this for someone who has no knowledge? Because a lot of times they don't. Same thing, you can see this is page 2. This is for our next overview for week 2. This is a once a week class. The same thing, it's laid out exactly the same way. And each module is laid out in that way so that they can know exactly where they're going. Where do I get the information? Do I have an assessment? Do I have practice and application? Do I have an assignment? And then as we get further on into here, let's see where there's a major assignment. You can see these are all modules that operate the same way. All right, so these are the modules. And then I also leave the assignments open for them because a lot of students like to be able to see their assignments like this and not have to navigate through. So if we take a look at this first assignment that I have for them, I give them the overview, the objectives. I mean, these are all the directions that I give them just in terms of what they need to do. This is a debate. So I gave them the format for how many minutes each person can talk. I told them how the procedures will work, how each team will be selected a winner, how points will be accumulated. Even though there is a rubric, I still give them the points here. I tell them this is all from Odie about academic misconduct so that they know. I added a rubric into all these assignments. Any assignment that has more than 10 points in our class, which are participation points, it's a rubric. And so, theoretically, and I build this every semester, if they're there at 3:00 in the morning doing this and they have a question, it's been answered already. And if I get the same question twice, I usually will make a video that I embed in that assignment or in that section of the course that says, okay, this is how we do this, because I know that that's an area that students are maybe getting stuck on. You can see the grades are here and exposed, and I let them see that. And that's pretty much the main things that we have made available to them. I don't make the pages available. I don't make the files available. My files are a mess. And that's okay, because they're allowed to be, because I'm the only one who sees them. But if your students are accessing things on files and your files are a mess, then they're a mess too. And so this is the fundamental concepts of what Carmen Common Sense would do. And this is what we're hoping that you will consider as you're redesigning a class, or as you're coming back for the fall semester, that you're able to see the course through students' eyes and see how this level of organization, how the due dates, and all of this, fundamentally, what we heard from students is this is addressing more stress and anxiety than we can possibly imagine. So, we have students that have been thrown into online environments, just like we have, who are not very comfortable there, and they are lost, and they feel very challenged by being alone. Asynchronous courses are one thing. Students they understand that an asynchronous course, they're going to have to do a lot of work on their own. But this idea of the synchronous courses that we did as hybrids, or that we, did, one day a week or whatever, students were really lost. And even when we're back to normal times, there's still going to be a lot of time and space that students feel that they're alone, and that they feel that they don't have the support that they need. And if you can directionalize your energy up front into providing that support in Carmen, then you're going to take a lot of stress out of the equation. And that's what I think we'd love to do for all of us. I build every course like it's an online course. This course happened to be online, but I taught this live and in person, and I'm teaching it as a hybrid in the fall. It will look exactly the same. So I don't think to myself, oh, I'm doing an asynchronous course, now I have to build it out. I have other courses I teach in person 4 hours a week, and they're built out exactly the same, because we don't ever know when they're going to need what they need.
I can't emphasize that enough, Nicole, and what we were hearing from faculty. If they took that approach, the pivot during COVID was not as difficult. In addition, I think everything that Nicole is presenting really does get back at extremely strong course design. So do you know your outcomes for your module? Have you thought about your outcomes for each activity? Are all of those aligned? And it just lines up so very nicely in a Carmen Common Sense shell. And the other thing that Nicole is pointing out has to do with relying on enterprise solutions. Oh, was I talking to myself?
You just the last word. We heard everything.
Oh, okay. I could have been talking to myself. The idea is that you don't have to use a whole bunch of bells and whistles. Only use the technology that serves the purpose of your students achieving the learning outcomes. And for a lot of us, that happened to be the learning management system and Zoom. So students don't need a lot of fancy technology, but they need what's going to support their learning.
And we just had the question about whether these templates are available, which I sent to the attendees. So I'm going to send them to the panelists. I'll send it to all of you. Part of what we do with our instructional redesign is we provide everyone access to the course that we're working on in the Commons. So if you go to Canvas Commons, which you can get to off of the, I can show you actually, because you can get there off of the homepage of any of the courses that we have. It says import from Commons. And so if you get a shell of a course, and I really advise doing this on a master course first, so you can kind of, screw around and make whatever mistakes you may make, but go import from Commons, and it'll take you to these different courses that people have uploaded. There's just assignments, there's courses, there's the whole thing. And then you can search for Carmen Common Sense, and this will show up, and then you can download all of the elements that are in this course, which are the same elements that I just showed you in the course that I'm in. But it'll give you examples of assignments, of different home pages, of modules. Everything that we utilized will be available to you guys here. What other questions do you have for us? Does anybody have any thoughts about their own course, or ways that we can kind of help you? And Melinda just sent a great resource. She's just filled with great resources.
And I'm going to send another one, which is a faculty playbook for online instruction that applies to hybrid and face-to-face as well. So I'll put that up too.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we know from students is that the days of saying things in class to them, and having that be the main pathway for information is over. I mean, it's been over for a while, but if COVID taught us anything, it's over. And in truth, we have no idea what's coming next, right? And one of the only bright spot that I had in March was that all of this was built out in such a way that when we had to switch online, our switch was virtually seamless because I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. So if you start to conceptualize your courses in this way, that you build them so that they can be, they can be approached when you're in person. It doesn't really matter if you have all this information online. It may just be an augmentation. Or, if you end up going to a hybrid or going online and then you use these resources more as the foundation of your course. I mean, either way, it's going to benefit your students. What is the current best practices for Canvas design?
Carmen, common sense.
I mean, I don't know that there is another best practice. Is maybe Tara? Is there anything wise that you know of, or?
Well, it just kind of depends on what the intent of the question is. If you're thinking in terms of visual choices like color and things like that, there are a lot of different best practices that we could go into, but we don't have time for. I'm going to find something and share it in the chat, though, that will touch on some of that.
There are also a number of wonderful rubrics that help you evaluate your learning management system. And the resource, the faculty playbook that I'm getting ready to post, it has links to some of those rubrics. I think one's out of Penn State. Certainly we have Quality Matters. You might be familiar with that. But all of the LMSs often have a rubric too. So there are several, and I'll try and get at some.
I just made this course public because I see the note in there that said that it was not available to people outside. So we just made it public for you. So you should be able to find it. Okay, so Scott's saying, you don't have to pick all of them, just try to keep building. And I totally hear you. And, I think when we get down to 8, 9, and 10, those are things that are bigger scale ideas. When we're talking about open access resources and, elements that are going to really change structurally how you teach, that's something that you're going to need to consider, how reasonable that is to your discipline. But I'm just going to pull up the tips again so that we can see them. When you're thinking about, uploading your course syllabus hopefully isn't going to be a difficult thing to do. Uploading assignments to the assignments tab with due dates. They weren't even asking for them to be, kind of flushed out as much as we did them. But the idea of putting due dates on everything is so vitally important. There is no calendar without the due dates. There is no syllabus tab without the due dates. Students can sync their Outlook calendar with their Carmen calendar. So all of those things require the due dates. The app is almost useless without the due dates. So if you're going to do anything on here, uploading your syllabus and putting the due dates on assignments, I can't stress to you how stressed students are when they don't have those things. And I really encourage you to, talk to your students, ask them. Like I have a check-in that I do at the end of the first week and then the third week, and I do it periodically. And one of the things I ask them is there anything that's not in Carmen that you feel needs to be, or is there anything in Carmen that feels confusing to you? And they'll let you know, hey, this is what I need to see, or this is what I'm not getting. And what you find then is students don't have the notifications turned on. You have to teach them to turn the notifications on and get them in a meaningful way. Because a lot of times you'll be sending stuff out into the ether, but unless they have, turned on that when you change an assignment that they're notified, or that when you send them an announcement, they're notified, they don't see things. So, that's another space that we need to just be aware of, is how are students consuming our materials? And we have to kind of meet them where they are, as opposed to thinking they're going to meet us where we are. Because what's going to happen is, and I'm sure I'd love to know who else has had this, at the end of the semester, we get I had no idea that you were sending those things out every week. And, there's nothing more frustrating. Other questions that we can help you guys with?
I was going to come back really quickly and answer that question. I thought I was going to be able to drop a link in here, but it looks like that webpage is actually down, about the Carmen design and Canvas design. Some of the biggest things I would emphasize are learning to make sure that you use the text header styles instead of faking text headers. So for instance, don't do the thing where you make the text for a header a larger size and you bold it. Use the actual paragraph header types, because that will allow for tabbing navigation. And the other big one is if you get into customizing things and you're picking colors, making color choices that are going to be really high contrast, so that it's more viewable and visible for everybody and easy to see regardless of device, screen size, and things like that.
That's a great idea. And Lindsay, I see your comment about an assignment with multiple options on multiple dates. You can actually set multiple dates. So you can set an assignment that it's only visible to specific students. So if you had I have an assignment that you can do either a podcast for, a video, or do a written paper. And so students actually will opt into which one they do. And then I assign that one to the students and they get and you can also do multiple due dates that way. So you just make it due for those certain students. If you have one assignment and you want them to be due on different days, you can set specific students to be due on specific days. So there's a lot of stuff inside of Carmen that allows us to really customize it based on students.
Nicole, Ben McCorkle has a question about incentivizing other faculty. Hi, Ben, to implement some of the Carmen Common Sense practices, because for example, he's working with a lot of associated faculty members who have different approaches to Carmen. They might be teaching at different institutions as well. So what do you think incentivizes people to take a look at this, or what might you recommend? And I have an idea too.
Why don't you go first? If you
then I'd bring them all together and say, hey, let's share an exemplar, right? So if there's, for example, if you have yours built in a certain way, or one of the associated faculty members has a really outstanding course in the learning management system, I think it's a perfect opportunity to bring people together. And if we can really show people how much more efficient they are when the learning management system is working for them, I think that's just a huge, it's probably the single greatest incentive, more so than, for example, IR program incentives, because it's your time that's most valuable. And if you're not having to worry about your learning management system or chasing after getting content up in Carmen, you have time to spend engaging students. And when you're engaging students, they're learning. And they're also letting you know that they're learning not only through their performance in your course, but in SEIs.
Yeah, and I think that Melinda's right on. I also think, it's it's a great moment when you show people your horribly crappy course and they dump all over it. I mean, I feel pretty good about it now because I redesigned it, but I redesigned it because it was a horrible, crappy course that students didn't like. And so, if there's a way to get some level of honesty from students, of, small focus groups, of just saying, look, can you give us your feedback on how you find things? I mean, that's what I did with my course. I said, I need you to find and do this. And the students couldn't do it. And I'm like, God, and the ability to recognize that it's my fault. The other thing is, and I've talked to Dr.
Tell them your story, Nicole, about the student that helped you review that course.
I had one person who met with me. She met with me at the 8th week and she said, I hate your class and I'm beginning to hate you. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. And it, the course did not meet her needs. And she was reflective of a larger number of students. I could tell by what she said. And so, your willingness to be open to the fact that you don't know what you don't know until someone tells you. And going back to your question, Ben, I just talked to Dr. Johnson about this about a month ago. We need to somehow incentivize through professional development, funds or time off in some way, the idea that professional development has value. Right now in the K-12 environment, all teachers are required to do professional development, and it's done during their classwork time, and they get the day off to do it, is how parents perceive it. But of course, they're doing their professional development. And so if there's ways that we can somehow factor into, preparation time, or there's some space that we put people on the clock for a week before they're scheduled to start teaching. That's something that I'm discussing with Dr. Johnson, and we've been working. Odie and I are involved in that because it's such a when you do something for free, right, it lacks value. And we're kind of looking at people to say, out of the goodness of your heart, we want you to do this, or because you think it's worthwhile. But, if you're saturated and overwhelmed and you're just trying to get a course out, you're not thinking about this greater good that's variably going to benefit from you. You're thinking, I need to get something in this shell in order to be able to teach this course next week. So that's what I'm hoping for. Yes, and of course, PD at the Drake Institute, we cannot recommend enough.
We'd love to see you there. Also, Angela, you had a question about lab resources. And if you email me, then I'll try and connect you with some individuals who have done some of that work. And we also have a community of practice for lab and field experiences. It's not going right now, but we have kind of a network established. So maybe we can do some introductions.
I really cannot sing the praises enough of the Drake and the work that they do and the programming they offer. Odie, the thing. I mean, that's part of, I think, the challenge is that we have so many resources available to us to learn how to do these things. We don't have nearly as much time as we have resources, but I don't want you to feel like there's not the support for you at the university. I go to a bunch of different universities and kind of give a similar spiel about the need to make materials accessible, and no one's doing what Ohio State does in terms of the support and the access to resources. So I hope you guys will be able to take advantage of them. And just a small plug, we'd love for you to join us in our instructional redesign cohort, because we have so much fun. And it's a great way to spend your May.
It's a really good time. And we end up having lots of different conversations on lots of different topics related to evidence-based instruction. So
what time do we go till, Tara? I'm sorry, I should know this.
We are almost out of time. We can go ahead and wrap up shortly. I'm just checking. We have, you guys already answered for Ben.
Great. Okay. So other questions that we can help you guys with, or, anything that you're thinking about this, any suggestions that you guys have that we haven't thought of, or, the more we can support each other is really the name of this game.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes left. I had too many windows open to see my clock.
I know the feeling. Okay, so in the 4 minutes we have the chat transcript. There's a lot of great.
Hey, Laura Struve.
Hey, Laura Struve. She was in our IR, right? Wasn't she in our IR? Laura, weren't you there?
No, she's over at Drake.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, and Ben's asking if there are any surprises coming down the pike for Canvas, which is kind of interesting. Tara, you all might have information.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's a very loaded question, Ben. Canvas always does updates, and a lot of them are considered to be very gradual updates that are pushed out sometimes weekly. And the intent there is that they be so subtle that the user not really even detect them.
Yeah, that one was not subtle, where they moved everything.
Yeah, they're not always subtle.
It was not subtle.
I don't know of anything coming that I can give you a heads up on, but that doesn't mean that there's not something coming. I did
quizzes coming July or December 2022.
Yeah, I did want to just mention one of the questions that came up earlier, or one of the topics being discussed was about how to really make more value in PD. And I'll say one thing that's really interesting to me coming from another university before Ohio State is everything was just required there. And from a lot of colleagues that do similar work to us in other universities, I know that a lot of schools take a more prescriptive approach, and they push a lot of templates and requirements out to faculty. Ohio State has given faculty and instructors a lot of autonomy in making those choices about their class. And this is where it gets tricky, right? Because you have the autonomy to create a really poor learning environment or just leave it completely open if you want. And obviously we don't want to take that away. So it's really a matter of trying to find that balance. It's tough.
And Megan's
asking
about... I want to
interrupt for just a second because, I forget who had this question. It was a question about What do you do with the assignments and lack of due dates because someone says that's the real world? I don't know that
That
real
is not
world.
the real
Do
world.
you? What I mean, if you want to look, if
I
we're
have
in
due
the
dates
work
all the
world, what are we
time.
doing? What's the deadline for something? What are if it's a major project? What are the milestones? What do I have to have accomplished at this by this date and then by this date? So we certainly, I would say the real world says that that's how we do things.
I would hope also that you could get students involved in this conversation. I mean, if we're not listening to our students, then we really have a challenge. I mean, our model is not going to be successful. And so, this is not like, I guess I want to stress that, and then Tara, I didn't mean to interrupt you, so I definitely want you to jump in. This is not something that ODE came up with. This is not something that, DLIT came up with or the Drake. Like, this came from students. Students said, this is what we need. And the more dialogue that we can have with students and, get through the extreme views. And I know that, we all have this view that like students want things that are unreasonable. They really don't. They want to do things that will make them successful. They want to do things that will allow them to leave here and be the best at whatever it is that they want to do. So if we can start to distill out, getting past whatever idea that we have that students are just looking out for themselves. They're really not. They have incredibly great ideas about how we can do some things better than what we're doing them now because they're closer to the action than we are. And so I would have to hope that in some way we could get that conversation going. And Tara, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Oh, you're completely fine, Nicole. I put it in the comments, the thing about I want to make things difficult for my students so that I can haze them into this real world experience of miserable chaos is really, really silly.
Very sad. That's very sad.
If my boss tried to do that to me, I would quit. And nobody would ever try and manage that way and send some emails to your employee this place and then other people use a different email address. It would be so wasteful of the company's time and the staff resources and energy. It's absolutely ridiculous and it would be a terrible practice. So I don't know where that assumption comes from.
Well, and I think what we want them to grapple with and to find, because once you make your way out of confusion, true learning does occur. But you want that to be related to the discipline and the topic at hand and the challenges there, not in our learning environments or our learning contexts, right? This allows the students to focus where they need to focus. And then also to take on other challenges related to the discipline. So I think we're just serving them very well if the environment itself is conducive.
I don't think we could end any better than that. So thank you so much for being here.